Good morning, everyone. I guess you can hear me now. We're going to wait maybe another minute to give the chance for everyone to join. Okay, good morning. So by way of introduction, for those who doesn't know me, my name is Ahmed Saleh. I'm partner and head of patents and designs, R&D and innovation at Al Tamimi and Company law firm. What we're going to talk about today is a very interesting subject, and it is about digital innovation and disruption in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And before diving in this very interesting subject, which is taken from both the business and legal perspectives, let me tell you that throughout the presentation, you'll be able to post your questions through a small window that you can see on your screen, I guess. And I'll be giving 10 minutes at the end of this session in order to answer these questions. So the presentation will last for 50 minutes, around 50 minutes, and with 10 minutes Q&A session. Okay. I'm first going to speak about the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak on the digital innovation sector, and then I'll follow by explaining the important role of the IP in the digital innovation wars. Then I'll follow by giving a small glance about patents and the war of the giants. We will try to keep it on the business side of things and not to slide into politics. So this is a very interesting subject, and will open just a little bit, shed the light on certain important things going on a global stage at the time we speak. And finally, I'll finish by a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So today, everyone is speaking about COVID-19, what the impact of this pandemic on different aspects of our lives. Of course, the damages this pandemic is doing are huge. We're not going to talk about this side of things. We're going to talk about what kind of impact the COVID-19 outbreak is having on the business world, and specifically on digital innovation and on the digital sector in itself. Now, the way we see it, and throughout this presentation, I'm going to give you my opinion on how I see things, on certain analysis of the situation from the business and legal perspective. And we're not pretending to give any absolute answer here, of course, and this is all subject to analysis and to personal opinions. So the way we see things is that this pandemic, as it has very dramatic consequences on certain businesses, such as hotels, restaurants, retail services, and so on. It will bring a lot of benefits to certain other businesses, which will come to fill in certain gaps inside the market. And here we can speak, of course, about the pharma industry and the healthcare industry, which are likely to benefit hugely from this pandemic. In the same line, of course, the digital innovation sector will, in our opinion, see a huge boost, and for several reasons. And as you know now, because of the characteristics of this pandemic, everyone will be turning towards digital in order to do business. So going towards digital, it means virtualization, using security systems, VDIs, using a new online digital management systems to do their business, and integrating digital transformation into all the traditional businesses. So this is, of course, a very important consequence on the digital industry. And because of that, we're going to see emerging two types of companies, which, in our opinion, will benefit hugely from this coronavirus pandemic. So the coronavirus pandemic, in our opinion, is bringing a huge tornado, a huge wave of digital change and disruption. Why disruption? We're going to speak about it. Digital change, it's clear that changes this pandemic is bringing, everyone needs to turn digital. There's no choice. We've been, in the last years, we've been experiencing certain transformation, certain digital innovation transformation, invitation to change, invitation to use innovation, which is brought or enabled by the advancement of certain technologies like 5G and artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, and so on. So we are in the heart of the fourth industrial revolution, and companies were already working toward that. However, it was a choice so far. It was a choice before the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a choice. Companies were trying to diversify, to integrate digital into their businesses, and so on. So it was kind of an invite. But today, after the pandemic, is it really a choice, or is it an obligation to do so to survive? So this is here a very important fact which is brought by this pandemic. It's a huge wave. Those who will be able to surf it will survive. Those who cannot surf it, well, unfortunately, will not be able to make it during this crisis and afterwards. So good companies, bad companies maybe will not be able to do it. Bad companies, how we define it, those who have not taken the preparations in advance before the pandemic, were not ready to innovate, were not ready to integrate culture and mindset of innovation within their enterprises and take the required steps. Maybe will have difficulties. Good ones maybe will survive, and the good ones who have taken all these steps in advance and tried and integrated innovation, maybe they'll be able to take huge benefits of that. So type A are these emerging companies who will be able to come and to serve the industries with digital technologies and supporting them to transform their businesses, to integrate digital technologies and platforms within their businesses, and so on. Of course, they can surf the wave and they can benefit from this. The second type of companies, of emerging companies, which we in our opinion, will be emerging. And this is extremely important, and we name them as the disruptors. So what is disruption? We're going to speak about it a little bit later, but the disruptors are those mainly who will be able to come and to take advantage of the situation and using certain business strategies. And we have among the participants here a lot of people from the business sector and from the business strategy sector who are very well familiar with this principle of business disruption and the business strategy behind disruption. How can this be done? And we're going to talk a little bit about it, just to shed the light on it. However, this is a very interesting category of emerging companies which will rise, the disruptors who will be able to come up with the new technologies and the platforms in order to disrupt certain areas of the market, certain industries, and so on. Of course, before we dive into what disruption is, these two companies, type A and type B emerging companies, with the technology they bring in, they will produce new technologies, a new innovative way of doing things through platforms or products or digital processes and so on. And all of this, when we speak about it, we speak about the importance of intellectual property on the protection of these, because IP, as we will speak a little bit later, will give huge benefits to these companies. And sometimes it's not only a question of benefit, it's a question of to be or not to be. If you don't protect your assets through intellectual property and by appropriate means, others will take it. It will be subject to misappropriation by others. And so if you are a startup, if you're an emerging company, and this is your only project, it's your life, well, if it doesn't work out, you're out of the game. Disruption, and this is really my favorite subject. And as I said, this is more a business concept, and here I'm putting my a little bit my business hat to speak about it. Disruption is a business concept, and it occurs when certain emerging companies, a lot of them may come from outside the industry, come and start by servicing lower end clients or a marginal market of the industry, and slowly coming from the blind spot of established companies who are navigating through their large ships, the industry, and they can't see in these blind spots. They come and they upscale and they take over the mainstream of these clients. And here, for example, I'll give a couple of examples. For example, Netflix. Netflix is a very important example, and Netflix, it started in the late 90s. And everyone knows how Netflix came in and disrupted Blockbuster. And this is when they integrated their platform, their new platform. In the beginning, of course, Blockbuster didn't perceive Netflix as a competitor or as a threat, because Netflix was coming from a lower end market. Blockbuster didn't really care about. Blockbuster was about DVDs, about the new releases and so on. People who pay money, who like to go to the store to get the DVDs. Netflix came with a small online platform at the time where the internet, the connectivity was not very high. It was available to certain group of people who were basically the online shoppers and the film buffs, and Blockbuster at that time really didn't see them as a threat. On the contrary, they said, okay, they are serving secondary market clients we don't care about. They don't pay a lot of money. So, and they are not into our mainstream of business. So we don't care about them. However, as the technology advanced in 2006, 2007, we saw the first iPhone coming out, and then the 3G coming to a full capacity at that time. The video streaming capabilities through the connectivity got better. So Netflix saw a huge opportunity to scale up and to take over Blockbuster, to scale up, to take the mainstream of the clients, of customers of Blockbuster. So now mainly those customers who were loyal to Blockbuster started to use Netflix, and then Blockbuster went down and became bankrupt in 2012. And the same thing happened. Same scenarios, we see it in other companies, Amazon and Apple. Amazon, well, it was the digital books, and Amazon is very interesting example, and where we see disruption day after day, and we will see it in the future as well. And as they will be using data in order to do a lot of things with data. Artificial intelligence is a big word, but it's all the analysis of this data, what they can do with it, and how they can get into new industries and to displace established companies without these companies seeing them coming. And actually, and this is how it happened in the beginning when Amazon got first into the book industry, and the book industry didn't see them coming. Amazon was about doing very specific certain type of business with certain type of clients, and afterwards, with the digital capabilities and the advancement of technology, they went and they took down the physical book library industry. And today we're speaking about Amazon. With the data, Amazon is analyzing data, and with the artificial intelligence, maybe they are looking into providing money loan services to companies, to their merchants, through analyzing the data these merchants, the data associated to these merchants through their e-commerce, and defining or determining who are those merchants with low risk financing, and then providing them with financing plans and so on. So we see how Amazon is going from industry to industry and really using data and artificial intelligence to analyze things, and taking really, literally taking them down in certain cases. So why it's important for emerging companies? Of course, emerging companies don't like to disrupt just for the fun of it. Some of them do, because they are tech geeks, but the short answer is that they do a lot of money with that. Of course, disrupting an industry, taking over an industry, is a huge lucrative, because you're taking the whole industry. You're just replacing a market or taking over the mainstream clients of established companies. And if we look at this graph, which is very interesting, we see how in the past the typical Fortune 500 took 20 years in average to do their $1 billion, whereas all these emerging companies, which started emerging companies and today they became giants, they did their money in an average of 4.4 years to do their first $1 billion. And all of these, if you look at them, Google, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, and so on, they came up with new technologies, new platforms. They used very intelligent, either sustaining innovation or disruptive innovation. We'll not dive into the detail of the difference between both, but they did really use very clever business strategies to get to their business. And IP, of course, intellectual property, was and still in the core of this business strategy of these companies. Today, all these companies have different forms of intellectual property. They use it as a weapon, as a sword, as a shield, to either to attack, either to defend themselves against competition, to gain a monopoly in the market, to use it as part of their disruption strategy when they emerge, to use it as part of any acquisition plan when they want, and so on. So this is very important to know that today disruption is interesting, because these companies will be able to scale up very quickly. And the way we see it now with the COVID-19 outbreak, the market literally has a lot of gaps, and we believe that this average, even with new disruptive companies being able to make it, maybe they'll be able to make money with less average period than that. And with a small brackets here, we believe that at the time we speak, with the COVID-19 outbreak period now, which is very unfortunate from for a lot of businesses. However, on the other side, we see it will bring a huge benefit to certain others. And this is to emerging companies. They'll have huge chances to be able to make a difference now. And established companies, hopefully those who were able to innovate and to integrate innovation culturally, mindset, and resources within their company before the crisis, will be able to take benefit and to cash out today. Those who were not ready, who didn't take the preparations to do that, in my opinion, I'm afraid that they'll maybe have hard time now for some reasons. I'll talk briefly about it, but do they have time now to go and to make all the preparations? Maybe, maybe not, but this is very, very important, at least for them to take what's going on into consideration in order to be able to navigate appropriately through this period. So today we see we are in a very fertile environment for disruption. I compare this period to the period of 2007, 2008, when we had the real estate crisis in 2008. Of course, it was a huge depression, business depression at that time, and venture capital at that time turned from investment in real estate to investing into technology and high technology. And so from that time, we see a lot more appetite for VCs to go and invest into technologies, and a lot of companies benefited from that, including Facebook and others. At that time, the iPhone, the first iPhone was on the market. 3G reached its full capabilities. So there were certain preparation from the technological side, certain enabling technologies, which allowed some tech companies to take advantage also from the customer's behavior and to integrate in new technologies and to put them on the market. So, and VCs were ready to do that because they wanted to put money and to invest into money. And they've seen that throughout the crisis, those who survived better are those who used technology in their operation and so on. So this was a period where some tech companies benefited at that time. Today, we believe we're living in a similar period and amplified by 10. And this is my personal opinion. Why? Because we have very powerful enabling technologies today. We're talking about 5G, the Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, computing power. The computing power we have today is like no other day in the past. The 5G connectivity, Huawei, Samsung, they have huge capabilities on the 5G. And still 5G, we haven't seen anything yet from 5G, but 5G will not only be 2 times more powerful than 4G, but multiple times more powerful. So it will be able to trigger or enable many applications which we don't see today on the market. So we're talking about huge connectivity powers. We're talking the huge storage, data storage power with big data, huge computing power, and to process these data and to come up with predictive figures and with analysis through artificial intelligence. We're talking of tremendous amounts of Internet of Things related applications to connect our world. So all of this with the crisis we're living, which is looking more and more to fill these gaps for connectivity, to solve the industry problems from different perspectives. So this will give a very big boost and very fertile environment for disruption to happen. The vulnerable financial position of established companies, normally disruption when it happens, or the disruption attacks when emerging companies go on with their disruption attacks and build up a strategy process to do that. They need to choose the timing. The timing is extremely important. Even if they have the best platform, they can't do it at any time. It's like you have a very strong weapon and you want to fight an existing huge army. So here you need to build your strategy to do that, and the best strategy, of course, is to fight a war, is to win a war without fighting, and many companies and cultures know that very well. So so here it's extremely important to choose the time, and the time today, a lot of established companies are in a very vulnerable financial positions. Okay, when your army is vulnerable, is tired, doesn't have resources, it's the best time to take it down. And today, a lot of established companies have financial difficulties. Even if they see these disruption attacks coming, do they have the money and the resources and the time to make preparations? Do they have the resources and the time to defend? We're going to talk about these defensive strategies a little bit later and related a little bit to intellectual property as well. The customer behavior and needs, while in 2006 and 2007 it was a will from the customer, or kind of with the emergence of the iPhone and higher connectivity and so on, customers wanted to go digital and so on, and with the rise of the millennials and so on, so it had a lot to adopt these technologies. Today, it is a customer behavior not only, but it's a mandatory one. Do you have the choice today? Well, if I'm giving the choice to do this a seminar and having you in front of me, or a webinar, well, I had this choice maybe 4 months ago. We don't have that choice today. Okay, we have to go through a webinar, and this is how it works in almost every industry. Almost every industry, it's a mandatory change of behavior for the consumers to adopt new technologies. The VC appetite, we spoke about it. Globalization, this is a huge topic, globalization. And globalization failure, I can't go to say and to affirm as we are living a globalization failure today, but for sure we're living a period where globalization has shown its weaknesses in certain dimensions. Okay, and we see it in value chain networks, in supply chain networks throughout. When supply chain networks are extraterritorial and transcend the boundaries of countries, we see them today having difficulties. So certain supply chain networks shown they are not very resilient to crises like the pandemic we're living today. And this is also another important thing I would like to shed the light on, and to consider within your operations as well. And it will impact, of course, intellectual property, how we approach intellectual property, and how we adopt it within our business strategy. And we're going to touch base a little bit on that at the end of this session. The government challenges, of course, governments want more than any time else to go and digital and to use technology to fight the pandemic and fight and other crises in the economy today. And we're going to see how China has adopted these technologies and was the first one to contain the pandemic because actually of the early adoption of these technologies. And these technologies didn't come just today at the time that the pandemic went on. And we will see how Chinese companies have prepared for many years before to have the technologies they have today and the intellectual property they have today, which helped them to fight the pandemic and to contain it extremely quickly. And we will see some figures about this towards the end of this session. And products and services and challenges, of course, are changing, and as we said, it will turn more and more towards digital. So all of this makes it extremely the period we're living is extremely fertile for disruption. So emerging companies, if you're an emerging company and you're in this sphere, it's time to consider how and when and where and all your business strategy to make your disruption attacks. And I'm not inviting for so, but I believe from the business perspective, from the analysis, it is a fertile environment today. Now, disruption attacks, what does it mean? It means there are different strategies for this. It means you want to leverage yourself to stand up, to make yourself visible through your presence and intellectual property to these big companies to get acquired. And as we will see, being acquired is maybe in your interest and maybe you don't want to go and compete with these, huge established companies. And to make yourself visible, it's, there are ways to do that, but IP is one of the very important things which can make you visible on the business map. For established companies, it's also a time to look around you. Step down from your very big ship. You are navigating in the middle of the ocean. You are a huge ship. You can't see everything close to you. So you need to put your innovative crew down through small ships, navigating around the large one, and to look around what's going on in your market, looking around for all these emerging companies trying to come up with some competing, some technologies which might affect your business in the future, and try to build your strategies, your business strategies around that, either through IP, which will act as a barrier to new entrants to come in and to impose new realities, or through considering acquisition or other means of defense. But however, it's time for you to do so, and the more you wait, before seeing an opportunity, the more you will pay, the price will be higher, because a small company today coming with something which is not extremely clear yet from the business perspective, it will harm you for now, because the business case is less clear. The price of that acquisition is also lower. However, if you wait longer and the business case becomes clearer to everyone, and becomes clearer to everyone the threat it poses on you, and the client will be able to take it from your mainstream, the higher the value will be. So it's time really to step down and to put your innovative crew, and to have some teams to look into that as a defensive mean. But as I said, a lot of companies are in vulnerable financial positions, and maybe they'll have difficulties to take some defensive means now. So here we can see some classical disruption defense strategies. So normally, what do you do when there's disruption? How do you defend against that? When you see disruption coming, how do you defend against them? So basically, this is without going too much into detail in that, either you need to beat them, to beat the disruption threats. How do you do that? To see an emerging company trying to come up with a new new way of doing things, new technology, new platform, whatever, and can pose a threat on you in the future. What do? You either go and you build your own startup and try to experiment that new technology, or you line it up within your internal operations. You have a separate division or a separate department trying to experiment and to come up with something similar. So this is a proactive approach of defense, and normally companies do it when they have the money, they have the resources, and so on. So we see this, for example, with the acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp by Facebook, for example. This was some defensive strategies on the reactive side of things, rather on the proactive side of things. We integrate within our operations new teams. However, you will have the difficulties with the culture, with the mindset, with the operations. Sometimes your value chain network cannot support the same. If you're a huge company and all your processes and your systems and the way you work are going in one direction, if you can't normally apply the same supply chain network to something which goes in a completely different direction. So this is the difficulty why sometimes big companies prefer to establish spin-offs or separate entities to deal with things. Are we in this period, in a period where these established companies can do this? this is a question mark, and it depends on each company. However, we believe that with the financial crisis we're living today and with the vulnerable positions of these companies, maybe they won't, a lot of them unfortunately will not have the time to go and start experimenting from now. They want something which is already, they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they don't have the focus, and so on. They are too worried with their survival and how to make it throughout this period. Now, the reactive side of things is acquisition. If you see a threat, emerging company coming up with something, you need to go and acquire it, and want to acquire it the earlier the better, in order for the price to be lower. Of course, you need to have a good vision if this company will be able to make it. Sometimes if it's not able to make it, well, and you make this bet, you've saved your money. So this is one of the defensive strategies, and intellectual property again plays a very important role here for emerging companies. If they go into acquisition, IP is one of the most important booster to your business value. So it will boost your monetary value extremely high. Intellectual property is very important. Don't go into acquisitions without protecting your IP. Established companies, if you want to as well to have a negotiation and power on that, having protected your assets through intellectual property is very important here. Why? Because IP plays as a barrier to new entrants. So it will dilute, or it will give you more time to react and more time to play this game, and to be able to control the market. Leverage complementary asset. This is another very important mean for established companies. Also, complementary assets today and make it more difficult for your clients to shift to this new emerging company, or come up with products which are complementary to whatever might come as a disruption in the future. And how and intellectual property is extremely important here. Complementary assets, if there's something I think about today, and if we go back to the past and we study the companies, Apple came up with iPod, iTunes was patented by Smart Flash. iPod didn't have that success in the beginning without the iTunes, and when the iTunes came out, Apple jumped on the occasion and started using them with their iPod. They made a lot of money, but iTunes was patented by Smart Flash. There was a legal suit. Smart Flash was able to cash $500 million from Apple at that time. But these are two complementary assets. Each one of them, Smart Flash was an emerging company, Apple was a huge established company. Each one played their cards to benefit better from their complementary products to each other. Apple had the iPod and Smart Flash had the iTunes, and so on. Today, there's no better example than data. You own the data. Established companies, you have the data with your clients. You understand their behavior, you understand their needs, you understand their pains, you understand the whole history behind them. Get closer to your clients. It's time more than ever to get closer to your clients, build loyalty, understand them better. This is take your data, use it internally, analyze it, see how you can come up with better products for them, and so on. This is the way, and data is, of course, proprietary information. All of this is protected under intellectual property. It can be from different angles. We will not dive into the legal technical details now, but this is very important for you to build your complementary assets at this stage and make it more difficult for new disruption attacks to take over, or to make you buy more time, or to oblige these companies or these disruption companies to come and negotiate with you and give you more leverage during negotiation and so on. So the role of IP in all that is, as we said, very important, and we spoke basically about all of this. It makes you gain a huge competitive advantage. It's a monopoly. You're getting a legal monopoly on the market, and it makes the barrier to new entrants higher. So this is for established companies. It will make the barrier higher, and for business consultants and for business strategists, and you know how this play with the four competing powers, how it acts it gives you a huge leverage in order to increase or to higher the barrier to new entrants, giving more leverage for you to position yourself competitively within the market. For mergers and acquisitions, it's boosting the value for emerging companies. It's a negotiation tool for both. It's a weapon to attack for disruption. If you have a very innovative platform, of course, you don't want this to be reproduced by others. And the way to do that is through protecting through intellectual property. Otherwise, you come up with a technology, you try to do your disruption attack, other companies can reproduce your technology if there's no IP protection for that. Sometimes it's more difficult or it takes more time, and by that time you've put your footprint in the market. But this is another question. However, IP will play a very important role in these disruption wars, which we will see in the future, and you need to take things in advance. Either you are on the disruption side of things or on the defense side of things. You need to take things in advance. And IP, of course, is a monetization tool which will help you to make money through licensing, through and other means. Okay. This is now, we've looked a little bit about disruption. We've looked a little bit about how the digital industry is likely to be impacted by the pandemic and so on. And now we're trying to look at things from a more global perspective. Are we talking about, especially when we're talking about intellectual property, is it a new game? Is it something which is new for industry? Of course not. IP patents have been considered as one of the most powerful weapons in business wars when it comes to technology, and many countries have understood this, and many companies have understood this. So let's see where do we see the competing force. As we see the competing force going on between industries, we can see also the competing forces going on between companies from different countries. And let's play this short video a little bit to give you an idea where we stand. So this starts from 1990. Okay, and this is the total number of international patent applications filed in front of WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization. Okay, and it sees how the countries, the total number of patent applications filed by companies coming from the different countries. And we see from the 90s, the US was ranking first, and we see how China has been going through the race very quickly, very powerfully, and bypassing almost everyone. In the 90s, it wasn't even on the map. And so competing with Japan the last couple of years, and now exceeding US in 2019 for the first year. This is the total number of patent applications filed in front of WIPO, and it's around 58,000 by China. However, this is only one type of patent applications filed in front of WIPO. Okay, I will launch a poll now, and there are around 3,500,000 patent applications filed every year worldwide by different companies coming from the different countries. Okay, so, and let me ask you this question. You will see on your screen now. Okay, so from the 3.5 million annual global patent filings, China alone accounts for around how much in terms of share? Okay, 10 more seconds. Make up your mind. Okay, last 5 seconds. All right. So, all right. So, 50%, 49% of the participants responded 50%, and this is the correct answer. So today, at the time we speak, the number of patent applications coming from China worldwide account for almost 50% of the total number of patent applications filed by all other countries together. And this is huge. This is a huge. This is a figure which shows the total number of patent applications filed in China by Chinese companies. Okay, and we're talking about 1.6 million patent applications per year in 2019 filed by Chinese Chinese companies domestically in China, and utility models exceeding 2 million. This is without speaking about the other IP forms. And this is a lot of applications, So here, I'm not going to dive into this in details, but we're planning to hold maybe another seminar on the Chinese model of IP protection, that Chinese culture, philosophy, government incentives, government policies around this, so on, comparative with the other countries, including the US. So we are going to be holding such seminars in the future. And however, I wanted throughout this presentation just to shed some light on some very important facts which are going on today. Of course, intellectual property, there is a race for superiority in terms of patent protection. It's a huge tool, a huge weapon. And as I mentioned, it's not only for companies, for business companies, also for governments. Certain governments are building pools of patents in order to give more leverage to their local domestic companies and so on. So this is a separate subject. We will be able to conduct some seminars in the future regarding this. But look here about that the race for digital supremacy as well. And this is extremely important. And you'll see in 2005, the China's digital economy excitement was 0.6%, and it increased to 42.4% in 2016, where the US one shrink down to 24.1%. This is the total retail e-commerce transaction value in 2016, 42.4% of the total e-commerce transactions worldwide from the value perspective are done by the Chinese, and 24.1% from the United States, and the rest of the world 33%. This is how important the digital world is, and how the US and China have seen it. It's not something which is coming today, and it's something completely new. And the digital is digital is the future. It's known from years ago. But what coronavirus made, what this pandemic made, is it brought up a huge tornado. It is a huge catalyst in order to bring in and impose digital as the imposing power in our world. This is what it did. It gave this crown to digital, and and it made it sit on the seat of the queen. It is the imposing reality today, but these countries have seen it years ago. The global unicorns are startups which hit $1 billion, and normally through either sustaining or disruptive innovation. The total value the percentage of global unicorns in June 2016 in terms of value, 43% comes from China and 45% come from the United States. This is, again, it's a huge. Here, this is, we spoke about connectivity, about 5G, this huge platform, very powerful platform, which will be able to change the digital world, to change, and if you see today, one fraction of, if you see today applications, online applications, and Apple, what provided you is basically a platform to connect users with application designers. And this has been done very successfully through 4G. 4G enabled this big time, but 5G, the boost will be huge. What 5G will be able to bring in terms of new applications and new technologies employed on this platform is huge. Huawei on today is leading the world. Huawei and Samsung are leading the world, and Huawei has, according to this study, more than 3,000 families, and Samsung around 2,000 families. So again, we see Chinese and US companies. Qualcomm is playing a huge role in this. Now there are some business going on between Chinese companies and US companies, and according to some reports I've read, Huawei also licensed in some technologies from Qualcomm for a lot of money, and there are transactions going on between these. However, you'll see how the race for digital supremacy and for patent supremacy is going on. This is a very interesting image, which is about the effect of coronavirus on the global supply chain. It's extremely important to understand how this pandemic is affecting businesses, and including this. This is, if we want to say we are within an IP or a digital war today, this is part of that, for sure. And very interesting. I will not give any answers here, but however, it will be extremely interesting to go and analyze some of the most powerful companies today in terms of digital, to analyze their supply chain networks, and to see what kind of supply chain networks is, and to make a business study on what are the differences between the supply chains have been implemented so far by different giants, and which one is more resilient to all the economic impact we're having today. And this is a very important thing to take into consideration as well. And patents and IP comes, of course, as part of that global chain network. And Apple, just a quick glance, Apple so far before the pandemic has been considered as having one of the most efficient supply chain networks in the world, with thousands and thousands of patents being licensed and supplied, and suppliers being placed all over the world, and especially in the Far East. So Apple and their supply chain network counts a lot on Far Eastern companies to bring their components. Your iPhone has thousands of components. Many of these come from the Far East. What will happen after the crisis? How this will impact Apple's ability to supply, or the cost of supplying the products when you have all this disruption in the supply chain networks? Does Huawei have the same structure, this horizontal extraterritorial or a network of supply chain? It's interesting to look at. Huawei maybe has adopted different chain models. It's interesting to see the different ones and how coronavirus has impacted these, or which one is more resilient. But what we can see for sure is that the Chinese companies have been focusing substantially on the national economy, on filing. Most of their patents are filed inside China, and we've seen the figures. More than 1,700,000 patent applications has been filed by Chinese companies inside China. Now, there are reasons behind this. Of course, the market in China is big. The cost is lower to file nationally, and so on. But again, it's a huge belief in nationalism. It's a huge belief in the national economy, and so on. Apple has been, and US companies have been filing patent applications in export companies. This was the focus. we're seeing today a failure in the globalization. So it's a comparison to make. It's a lesson or a case study to do, and maybe within your businesses to take into consideration. Look at these technologies which have been used by Chinese companies to fight against coronavirus pandemic, for body heat scanning, monitoring systems, surveillance systems, e-healthcare, and so on. China was able to provide technologies and be able to put these technologies, which are ready, to the benefit and to the help of the situation during the pandemic, more than any other country, and is actually licensing out some of these technologies to other countries. And if you look at IP and the role it has been it played in this, in face recognition patents, China used their monitoring system and surveillance system through the cameras and artificial intelligence to contain the pandemic. It's a huge network of systems of millions and millions of cameras and data processing all the images coming from monitoring people throughout the day in order to contain the pandemic, and patents have played an important role to protect these systems. And since 2012, we're seeing until 2017, and this figure stopped at 2017 because we cannot have access to data, maybe in some later stage the last years for confidentiality reasons, but we see a huge hike in the number of these patent applications. And again, the three dominant companies in China who have these technologies as well, we see a huge hike in number of patent applications filed across the years. 2017, 18, 19, we see a huge hike of number of patent filing by these three giants specialized in these systems. So they've taken things, the development of internal innovation system by the Chinese has helped them substantially in order to contain this crisis, whereas other countries have exported, has more maybe did not consider certain technologies as a high priority for their national interest and so on. They are having huge difficulties today. So this is the presentation. It puts an end to the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. We're running out of time. We have 4 minutes. I'll be able to take maybe 1 or 2 questions. And if you have any other question, please feel free to send me an email at my email address, which is shown on your screen, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And in the survey, we will be asking about your preference for the future seminars. We have a couple of very interesting seminars coming up, which will talk about the different patent system, the Chinese system, the US system, or diving into IP protection of software innovations, more legal or technical detail or other subjects. Please stay tuned with us, and we promise to deliver the most exciting and interesting and beneficial seminars taken from both the business and legal and even technical perspective, to make you surf through this difficult period of time. Questions, okay. For filing patent application, is it required to be done emirate-wise, or it covers all of UAE? You can file a patent application in the UAE, and it covers all the Emirates when the patent application is granted. Is there anybody governing the filing for GCC countries? There is a GCC patent office which sits in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and filing a GCC patent application within that office. Once this patent, GCC regional patent, is granted, it's valid and enforceable in principle in all the GCC countries. Okay, you talked about patent and technology, but protection of technology undergoes copyright, which is not protected in this area. Well, technology, if we speak about digital, there are different vehicles to protect. There is copyright to protect the source code in itself. It's protecting the literal expression of the source code in itself. Patent, we can go to patent to protect the concept if it's a new, innovative, inventive, and novel concept and underlying a new process. For example, data processing things, we can go through patent, and this is very much recommended to gain a protection on the spirit of the technology itself and not on the coding in itself, which can be over designed easily. But copyright, there are limitations for protection. As I said, it's good to also approach it from the patent perspective when possible. And you're right to say that in certain countries in the region, there are certain limitations on that, which need to be taken into consideration as well while putting in place an IP protection strategy. How ready is UAE for 5G in your opinion? I think we have someone with us from Huawei as participant, and I will defer this question. Maybe if you send me an email, I can introduce you to the VP strategy from Huawei, actually, who is a participant with us on this seminar. But I think according to my discussion with him in the past, we are very much ready. As technology is moving so fast, is patent protection not too slow and expensive for future technologies? Well, actually, this is a very good question, and the answer is that some countries have expedited process to protect technologies. South Korea, you can patent your invention within 3 to 6 months. Japan has expedited the process, and some other countries in the US, you can expedite the process to under 1 year. In the region, we're trying to, of course, it's recommended for the patent offices to adopt expedited processes to protect inventions through patents, as technology is moving at a very quick pace, and of course the patent system needs to advance as quickly as the pace of innovation. But there are certain ways we can help in to expedite the process and to deal with the situation. Okay, I think this brings an end to the seminar. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. And thank you very much for your attendance. And I wish you a very good day and good health and safety for you and your families. Thank you very much.